After this, on that morning, in order to dispose my heart more, Jesus spoke about the annihilation of myself. He also spoke of the immense desire which I was to excite within me in order to dispose myself to receive that grace. He told me that desire makes up for the lacks and imperfections that there may be in the soul. It is like a mantle that covers everything. But this was not a simple speaking. It was an infusing in me of what he was saying. While my soul was exciting itself with ardent yearnings for receiving the grace that Jesus himself wanted to give me, Jesus came back and transported me outside of myself, up to paradise. And there, in the presence of the most holy Trinity and of the whole celestial court, he renewed the marriage. Jesus put out the ring, adorned with 3 precious stones, white, red, and green, and he gave it to the Father, who blessed it and gave it back to the Son again. The Holy Spirit took my right hand, and Jesus placed the ring on my finger. Then I was admitted to the kiss of all 3 divine persons, and each of them blessed me. Who can say my confusion when I found myself before the most holy Trinity? I will just say that as soon as I found myself in their presence, I fell flat to the ground, and I would have remained there if it wasn't for Jesus, who encouraged me to go into their presence. So great was the light, the sanctity of God. I am only saying this. The other things I will leave out because I remember them confusedly. After this, I remember that a few days passed and I received communion. I lost consciousness, and I saw present before me the most holy Trinity, whom I had seen in heaven. I immediately prostrated myself in their presence. I adored them. I confessed my nothingness. I remember that I felt so sunken into myself that I did not dare to utter a single word, when a voice came out from their midst and said, "Do not fear, pluck up courage. We have come to confirm you as our own and to take possession of your heart." While this voice was saying this, I saw that the most holy Trinity descended into my heart, and they took possession of it, and there they formed their dwelling. Who can say the change that occurred in me? I felt divinized. It was no longer I who lived, but they were living in me. It seemed to me that my body was like a residence and that the living God was residing in it, because I could feel sensibly their real presence in my interior. I could hear their voice clearly coming out from within my interior and resounding in the ears of my body. It happened precisely as when there are people speaking inside a room and their voices can be heard clearly and distinctly, also outside. From that moment on, I had no more need to go in search of him somewhere else in order to find him, but I could find him there, inside my heart. And when sometimes he would hide, and I would go in search of Jesus, wandering throughout heaven and earth, searching for my highest and only good, while I would be in the heat of my tears, in the intensity of my yearnings, amid the unutterable pains of having lost him, Jesus would come out from within my interior and say to me, "I am here with you. Do not look for me elsewhere." Between the surprise and the contentment of having found him, I would say to him, "My Jesus, how is it for the entire morning you made me go round and round in order to find you, and you were here? You could have told me at least, for I would not have gotten so worked up. My sweet, good, my dear life, take a look at how tired I am. I feel I have no more strength. I feel faint. Oh, please sustain me in your arms. I feel myself dying." And so Jesus would take me in his arms and would make me rest. And while resting, I would feel my strengths being restored. Other times in this hiding of Jesus and my going around in search of him, He would make himself felt inside of me and then come out from within me. And I would find not Jesus alone, but all three divine persons, now in the form of three children, gracious and immensely beautiful, now with one single body and three distinct heads, but resembling each other, all three of them attractive. Who can say my contentment? Especially when I would see the three children, I would hold all three of them in my arms. I would kiss them now, one, now another, and receive their kisses. Now one would lean on my shoulder, another on the other shoulder, and one would remain in front of me. And while delighting in them, I would go about looking at them. And to my amazement, from the three, I would find one. Another amazement for me, when I would be with these three children, was that each one would weigh as much as the three of them together. I would feel as much love for one of these children as for all three of them together. Each one of them attracted me in the same way. In order to finish speaking about these marriages, I had to skip over a few things, for I was following the thread, and now I will tell them. Going back to the beginning, when Jesus would deign to come, he would speak to me very often about his passion, and he would take care of disposing my soul to the imitation of his life and of his pains, telling me that, in addition to the marriage which is mentioned above, we had one more left to do, and this was the marriage of the cross. I remember that he would say, "My spouse, the virtues become weak if they are not strengthened and fortified by the grafting of the cross. Before my coming upon earth, pains, confusions, disgraces, calumnies, sufferings, poverty, illnesses, and especially the cross, were all considered an opprobrium. But from the moment they were born to me, they were all sanctified and divinized by my contact. So they are all changed in their appearance, becoming sweet, pleasant, and the soul who has the good of having some of them receives honor. And this because she has received the vestment of me, Son of God. Only those who look and stop at the cortex of the cross experience the opposite, finding it bitter. They are disgusted by it. They complain as if someone had done wrong to them. But those who penetrate inside of it, finding it enjoyable, form their happiness in it. My beloved daughter, I yearn for nothing else but to crucify you, body and soul." And while he would say this, I would feel such infusion of yearnings to be crucified with Jesus Christ that I would often repeat, "My Jesus, love, hurry, crucify me with you." And when he would come back, the first petitions I would make to him, which seemed to be the most important to me, were these: sorrow for my sins and the grace to be crucified with him. It seemed to me that if I obtained this, I would obtain everything. Then one morning, my most loving Jesus made himself present before me in the form of the crucified, and he told me that he wanted to crucify me with him. As he was saying this, I saw that the rays of light were coming out from his most holy wounds, and within those rays, nails coming toward me. At that moment, I don't know why, though I desired so much to be crucified by him as to feel consumed, I was caught by a great fear that made me tremble from head to foot. I felt such annihilation of myself. I saw myself so unworthy to receive that grace that I did not dare to say, "Lord, crucify me with you." Jesus seemed to be suspended, waiting for my will. Who can say how ardently I desired it in my inmost soul, though at the same time I saw myself unworthy. My nature was frightened and trembled. But while I was in this state, my beloved Jesus, through the intellect, solicited me to accept. Then with all my heart I said to him, "Holy Spouse, crucified for me, I pray you to concede me the grace to be crucified, and at the same time not to let any external sign appear on the outside. Yes, give me suffering, give me the wounds, but let everything be hidden between me and you. And so those rays of light, together with the nails, pierced my hands and feet through, and my heart was pierced by a ray of light together with a lance. Who can say the pain and the contentment? As much as I had been caught by fear before, so much did my soul swim in the sea of peace, of contentment, and of pain afterwards. The pain I felt in the hands and the feet and in the heart was so great that I felt myself dying. I felt the bones of my hands and feet being shattered into most tiny pieces. I felt as if there was a nail inside, but at the same time they caused me such contentment that I cannot express it, and gave me such strength that while I felt myself dying because of the pain, those very pains sustained me so that I would not die. However, nothing appeared on the external parts of the body, though I felt the pains corporally. This is so true that when the confessor would come to call me to obedience and would loosen my hands, which were contracted, every time he would touch me at that point of my hands, that is, where the ray of light had gone through together with the nail, I would feel mortal pains. However, when the confessor would command, by obedience, that those pains should cease, they would very much mitigate. In fact, those pains were so strong that they made me lose consciousness. And if they had not mitigated at the call of obedience, I would hardly have been able to obey. O prodigy of holy obedience, you have been everything for me. How many times I found myself clashing with death, so great was the intensity of the pains, and obedience has almost restored my life. May the Lord be always blessed. May everything be for his glory.